folks. Welcome to episode 6 of season 14 of Mention and Dispatches, where we spent this week at GAMA Expo. Similar to what we did last year, where rather than try to get someone to sit down with us for a full hour-long talk while at the expo, we had several different people stop by for some shorter visits, and we're stitching those together to bring you one consolidated episode from the expo. So we've got a couple of different guests over the course of the next hour and change that you're going to hear from. We think a couple of them are pretty darn special, and we hope you're going to enjoy what we've cooked up for you from the expo here in Louisville. And so here, we're going to just get out of the way and let them take over. All right, cool. We're recording. So again, coming to you from GAMA Expo, similar to what we did last year, where we brought in a handful of industry luminaries and Jason to talk to us quickly about some of the things going on for them with the expo and then with their companies overall. This year, I'm going to try not to fanboy too much, sir, but we do have a guy who's been one of my game industry heroes for a long time. Mr. Steve Jackson is here. The U.S. Steve Jackson is here.
Not to be confused with.
Yes, and I realized the Steves Jackson had been confused for each other for quite a number of years. Mm-hmm. But sir, thank you very much for taking the time. We do appreciate it. One of the first things I wanted to ask about, because I was first 5 minutes of it being live, hitting pledge, you guys are bringing back the Fighting Fantasy game books, and yes. Those were originally published by the UK, Steve Jackson. Did you guys just decide to join forces? And
the first ones were all written by Steve and by his partner Ian Livingston. Together they founded Games Workshop. Mm-hmm. They also did the Fighting Fantasy things. A really notable career. And those books are still available in many parts of the world, but they've been out of print in the States for I don't know how many years, a long time.
Yeah.
And a lot of us really miss them.
I'm part of that number. I first stumbled across them as a kid growing up in Europe. My father was in the military, so we were stationed over there, and they were something that you could find at the on-post bookstores. And so yes. I piled up quite a few of them over the years.
We're really hoping to return them to bookstores as well.
Awesome.
They belong in bookstores. We'll see how that goes.
Look, I'm just thrilled they're back. And
the enthusiasts can certainly find them, but I want to make a lot of new enthusiasts, as I wrote in the first update to the campaign. My first client in this project is the person who has never seen a fighting fantasy because they're missing something.
Yes.
And yes, we certainly want to give the older enthusiasts and the collectors the kind of thing they want. But job number one is to reach new people.
Bring in some new blood.
These are a great introduction to the hobby. And it was a niche within a niche when they were released. And they became a huge success. And they helped make gaming a huge success.
Yep.
Now we're going to give some back. And we're going to see if we can draw in some more people with them.
As I understand, just again, what you guys had put out publicly through the Kickstarter campaign, you've got the first 5 of the books that you're including in the campaign, but we're not necessarily committing to republishing them all in the order they were originally published.
They will absolutely not be in the order they were originally published. That order was even different in different countries and different editions. So
okay.
There's nothing to match.
Yeah.
And, so we're leading from strength here with 5 of the best love.
Were there particular criteria on, was it like a sales thing? Was it a fan ranking thing? Or was
it? My particular criterion was to listen carefully to what Sir Ian suggested.
That seems a safe bet. Yeah, I would too. Did you have a personal favorite amongst the game books?
I really liked the very first one, Warlock of Firetop Mountain, a great deal.
Yeah.
City of Thieves, I think it is a big one. I don't know if you know, I did 3 in the series myself, making it even more confusing between the series. And don't think any of mine are bad. I think Scorpion Swamp, which was the first one that I did, is probably the best of mine. And then there are some of the not fighting fantasy books like Freeway Fighter that are fun to read.
Starship Traveler is still one of my favorites. That was, I'm not a big sci-fi gamer, but that was one of my favorites that I went through multiple times, and pencil marks and eraser marks and pencil marks and eraser marks.
Did you go through Appointment with Fear?
I don't recall. It's possible, but there was a stretch in the mid to late 80s, shortly before we moved back to the U.S. when my father got stationed back in Oklahoma, that I think I was doing about one a week, and like every one I could find. So some of them do eventually start to blend together. Starship Traveler was one of the first ones that I got. It was the first one that I can recall playing multiple times. City of Thieves was up there also. Like you, that's one I really enjoyed.
Always play them through multiple times. Even if you win the first time, you can try again, and you're not likely to win the first time.
Yeah, got my ass kicked by them multiple on multiple occasions.
Well, gosh,
You're on your mettle.
So much pressure. Well, I have a serious question. Someone like me, where I designed one game and it was popular and it went well, and so I'm doing other games that kind of like that. You have this enormous breadth of design in all sorts of genres, like two things that couldn't have less to do with one another. And on top of that, you decided to become a publisher, which is about a whole different set of skills.
It's a different game.
And an unpleasant one as far as I'm concerned.
There's a reason I don't do it anymore. I was bad at it.
So what drove you with all of this creative talent to also get into logistics business, where like somehow, despite being a creative mind, you have also succeeded?
What drove me? Diagnosable ADHD.
I feel you.
I'm a butterfly. I like to play all kinds of games, and when I enjoy one, and I usually do, I say, could I do that? Sometimes the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I became a publisher early on because of the term is creative differences with my first publisher, who taught me a whole lot of things, but eventually we needed to go separate directions.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do things my own way, and you don't get to do that when you work for somebody else.
Yeah.
Was that first leap, was it nerve-wracking? Or
It was
were you...
terrifying.
Yeah, it must have been.
Yeah. Well, and keep in mind, too, at the point at which Steve is doing that, there's not a template to follow.
No, exactly.
Right?
You're kind of inventing it.
Yeah, I mean...
There was not a template to follow. There were 0 courses in game design available at universities. The hobby was a niche.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was cool. We got to make it up as we went along.
Nobody to tell you you're doing it wrong, because nobody knows what right's supposed to look like.
Right.
Do you miss that era of business by handshake that used to be the way the hobby functioned? Now we're actually seeing accountants and lawyers and the rest of it.
There are accountants and lawyers, but there are still people out there with whom a handshake is all you need.
Yeah.
And there are those out there for whom accountants and lawyers aren't enough to. So be careful out there, guys.
I have a feeling we know a couple of them. It's probably true in any industry, but, particularly in this one, that's...
I don't think it particularly in this one. I read the papers.
Yeah. Okay, fair point. I did want to ask, and this is probably not a short answer, but however you want to address.
I'm a short guy.
You've been around the game business for quite a number of years, and look, you're responsible for a whole lot of my homework assignments not getting turned in, quite frankly, throughout me growing up. But you've seen a lot of trends come and go in the game world. You've seen a lot of the ups and downs of the business of the game world. You've seen some brand new things get created, and you've seen some things kind of fall off the map. Play by mail has completely gone away because we got play by email. I mean, there's still 1 or 2 people holding on in that little niche market. Yeah. But collectible card games didn't exist forever, and now they're everywhere.
They exist.
As you look back over the time you've been in the game business and using that to sort of project forward a little bit, is there anything in particular over the next 5 to 10 years that you think, hey, that might be something to keep an eye on, or hey, that's a trend where I think things might be going, or is there, prognosticate a little for us. Looking forward, is there something that really catches your eye?
I think it was Stephen Wright that said prediction is hard, especially about the future.
Yes.
But, wow.
I promise we will not hunt you down in 5 years and go, see what you said? We will not do that to you.
You won't be able to find me. The interstates will all be closed. We're coming into some scary times for any number of reasons. Doing business just got harder in the United States, and it's getting harder in Canada.
Yeah.
We're going to get socked by a surprise $33,000 bill for tariffs on the next container that lands. I promise you that wasn't budgeted for and isn't going to be paid for by anybody in China.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Yep.
Most of the stuff in that container is kickstarted, and we're not going to go back to our supporters and say, give us more money.
Yeah.
And domestic printing is going to become more expensive because we have apparently a trade war with Canada coming. And where do the paper mills live? Well, surprise, Canada. So every game you buy is going to be more expensive. Play more games with your friends so you don't have to buy your own copy. Patronize the used game store. I mean, I'm assuming nobody wants to cut back on their game. And
probably the opposite. May want to increase it.
I promise nobody but the billionaires is going to get richer over the next few years. So you're going to have to make your gaming dollar go farther.
Yeah, that's industry-wide. I think there's some folks that are terrified of what's going to happen.
Yeah. We're probably going to see a period of consolidation. The last few years have been a period of many flowers blooming, lots of Kickstarter-fueled one-game companies that then try to become a two-game company, and so on and so on. And some of those are going to dry up and blow away, and some of them are going to consolidate, and some will land in the middle and maybe not grow, but be able to remain in business if you've got a popular enough game that you're selling them rather than just walking around them every time you go into your garage.
Yeah, that's the hope, is to get the garage cleared out.
Oh, I know something that's new, and I wish we were on video now, because all I can do is let you listen to this new game product. That's not dice.
Those are little clickable hexes.
Little terrain tiles. There will be a Kickstarter for those soon by a British company.
Am I okay to snag a picture of these?
Absolutely. It's no secret. I've got a couple more. I just have to keep fishing in my pocket. The name of the company is Lorescape, Lorescape.
Okay.
I am biased. I am an investor. And you would be an investor too if you had seen these. And
so they're... For folks that are only picking this up on RSS and aren't necessarily looking at the podcast episode where we've got the pictures here, they are very reminiscent of the Heroscape tiles.
Yes, this is like a Heroscape tile of a later generation that's been re-engineered for better clickiness together and all that good stuff. Those are prototypes. The real ones will be a little bit bigger. They'll be exactly the size to fit a BattleTech game, for instance.
Oh, wow.
These are also very good for a couple of my own games, which was the first thing that went through my mind when I saw them in the UK last year. You could make an absolutely perfect melee map out of these. You could build them into an ogre map.
Yeah.
I mean, an ogre map is very simple and doesn't require nearly as many terrain types as these come in. But then if you're playing GEV, you'll want this string.
Yes.
And so on and so on. Play with them.
Those are very cool.
They are awesome.
They're tightly engineered.
I see that.
Yeah, wow.
And the print quality is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for the folks listening, they don't just link together. They have some extra little arms, and I'm going to try and zoom in with the picture here to show you how those extra little arms fit together. But these interlock very tightly. If you bump these on the table, they're not falling apart.
They're not falling apart.
So
they're not going anywhere.
That is really cool. So
and it's a way to bring portability favorable terrain to, I mean, essentially any war game that would use a hex.
And
Yes.
and with the tiles you get elevation,
and elevation
like
and the
very
rest.
visual elevation.
You can play on a compatibly sized text map and use these only for the elevation,
Right.
and then you don't have to cover the table with plastic unless that's your thing.
Yeah, no, those are really cool. That's pretty neat. Thank you for
So
showing us
people are
those.
still innovating.
Yeah.
And they'll, people aren't going to get stupid or boring just because the economy is about to crater. It's just going to be harder to find the cool stuff and harder to afford it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, people may have more free time, so hang on to your games, guys.
No, those are pretty neat. So we don't want to chew up too much of your time here at the expo, and quite frankly, we're getting on closer to dinner for folks, and Jason just got off the road, so
I'm at your disposal if you've got any more questions. It's barely 5 o'clock, and I don't have anything until later, so.
I don't have anything as his phone rings. I don't have anything else, Jason. If you don't, if you've got something you want to throw in here,
Just one more question, since I have like a founding father of the hobby and an opportunity to ask him some more questions.
Sure.
What do you think makes an evergreen game? Because so many of your products, most people are lucky if they get one of everything they design. But so many of your products are 30 years old or whatever, and still hitting tables, still having a devoted fan base.
well, and coming back with huge Kickstarters,
And
right?
coming back with huge
Ogre,
exactly.
Fantasy
Right.
Trip, Car Wars is still around, Munchkin's still around. Munchkin keeps expanding.
Munchkin keeps expanding, and that's 24 years old. It'll reach 25 next year.
Yes.
Okay, you remember Game of Thrones? You remember how all of the great houses had words was their motto?
Yeah.
And motto is just Italian for words. So Martin got a lot of mileage out of just doing unexpected little translations. But I digress. Our words are games you'll want to play again. That's always been the objective. If it feels like a game that you'll have fun with once and put away, I'd rather not publish it. I mean, sometimes I'm wrong. I'm wrong more than I'm right, but sometimes I'm right. I mean, replayability is the number one goal. I mean, a lot of things go into replayability. The rules have to be comprehensive. The balance has to feel right. Many things that you'll evaluate before you decide, does this get to come back onto my table?
Yeah.
But I mean, that question hits the nail on the head. That's what I'm about, is making games that people will want to play over and over.
Yeah.
Well, it's an amazing skill,
Yeah.
and congratulations at being so successful at it.
It's a fun one to have.
Yeah, there was a lot of playing of the Fantasy Trip over and over and over again for many years with me, and I think one of the coolest things about Munchkin and all the different flavors of Munchkin that exist is there's a Munchkin that I can literally get every member of my family to sit down and play with me, and that's saying something if I'm getting my wife to sit down and play something with me.
Not necessarily the same Munchkin, but a Munchkin.
Yes, I can get a Munchkin.
You can also do stupid stuff with it.
I get my daughter to sit down and play Spell School. I get my son to sit down and play most of them, quite frankly. My wife will play some of the sillier, funnier ones, but tends to avoid kind of the licensed, branded things. There was a game of Munchkin that broke out at a football tailgate one year that this was early 2000s, and a couple of us sitting around playing Munchkin and laughing uproariously, and suddenly had about 4 very large, muscle-bound, drunk rednecks looking over our shoulder, wondering what was so funny. As we explained it to them, they thought it was kind of cool. 2 of us got up, 2 of them sat down. We now had a couple of muscle-bound, drunk rednecks playing Munchkin with us at a football tailgate.
Cool.
And yeah.
And I still like to play the old ones myself. I guess it was Sunday I was in a very cutthroat online game of Fantasy Trip with a couple of employees and a couple of devoted fans, and we had a great time, and the whole party party got away alive.
Ah.
Which was, well, one of us was dead for a minute, but got better. It was a real circus. I had a good time, and remember I was a little late getting up for this interview. It was a fantasy trip project I was working on.
Oh.
Another solo adventure. I got within a page and a half of finishing my editing run, and then I realized I am late. And stood up from the computer and started walking and made a phone call on the way.
I don't think our interview is going to cause it to be late to market, people. You can dial back the panic.
Nope. It'll be 10 minutes work and then another 10 to check my checks, and then I'll send it off to production to be laid out.
And then we'll see it on the site a couple of weeks, months later?
I don't even know.
Oh.
The tariff situation, the whole economic uncertainty situation, is making us ask, should some second-tier project, and a solo adventure is a second-tier project, should maybe be PDF and pod only rather than trying to go into hard copy.
Yeah.
Because hard copy is for the super solos like Circling Back, Fighting Fantasy.
Yeah.
Those will do.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Sir, seriously, I absolutely appreciate the time up here.
My
thank you very much for being here. Jason, thank you for sitting in with us.
My pleasure,
and
for sure.
I didn't think it would be hard to get you to join this conversation.
Absolutely.
Next conversation we've got here at GAMA Expo, we have with us Mr. Mike Dunn from Gaming Trend, and you hold a very unique position in the pantheon of podcast guests for us. You are the first guy to be on the podcast who has the same name as a previous podcast guest.
What?
We had a Mike Dunn on, there's a Mike Dunn that works for the U.S. Army at Fort Leavenworth in the wargaming team there, and we've had him on before to talk about wargaming stuff, and he's been a part of our Origins crew. And it always throws me for a loop when I see Mike Dunn stuff on social media. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one from Gaming Trend, not the guy from Fort Leavenworth. But yeah, you are the second Mike Dunn to ever.
This isn't the Mike you're looking for.
Yeah, I don't know that the other Mike Dunn is going to care, but
well, I like his name.
You're both tall white dudes with beards, though. I mean, there's that going for you.
There's a band out of Austin, Texas called P-Lander Z. They have a song called "So Many Mike." Because there's so many Mikes out there. I've never heard of. I haven't heard of too many Mike Dunn. So
yes.
I salute you, sir.
So, editor-in-chief of Gaming Trend magazine, and then to make sure, co-chair of the. You do it because I'll mess it up.
So I am editor-in-chief of Tabletop at Gaming Trend.
Yep.
And then I am also the co-chair of the Media Best Practices Committee here at GAMA. With Drew Worley of Whirly Gig Games.
Yep. And we had Drew on this episode last year, so I'm gonna let him go be professional this year. I'm trying to get a whole new crew of guests this year and not go back to the. It's easy when Cole's not here. I don't have to call Cole again.
That's right.
It's easy to skip Cole. James Buckley's not here this year, so we can skip him.
Well, I'm happy to be on.
GAMA Expo, I do our coverage of GAMA Expo, which is Reno was I have no idea what I'm doing, but here's what happened today. Last year was a little more organized because I kind of had an idea what I was going into. This year I had some specific agenda bullets I wanted to hit. But you, as a media dude coming to GAMA Expo, outside of the professional development side of things, but just with what we see on the exhibit hall floor, the retailers, the publishers, the folks that you get a chance to talk to, what are the kinds of things that matter to you guys at the expo for sort of content on the site, media coverage, the stuff the audience might be interested in? What do you care about for that?
Right. So this is our fourth year attending GAMA Expo. This is actually the first year I've attended by myself for my team. We didn't have enough people who were willing to come this year. It's a different scheduling and conflicts and everything like that.
Well, they changed the schedule after they published it.
Yeah. But it's funny you should ask that because it's actually kind of changed from year to year, right?
Okay.
And I've tried a bunch of different things. Like last year, we did a lot of coverage of kind of what we did normally at any convention. Booth meetings, demos, that sort of thing. Every night there is a game night in a big room with a bunch of tables with a bunch of publishers and designers showing off their games and demoing their games. And that's always been great, especially to get like little quick takes of upcoming games, that sort of thing. It's definitely a far cry from the first year I attended, which was one of the first years that they allowed media to come to GAMA Expo. Because right before that, they expanded the organization to include media and events as one of the primary segments of the organization. That first year, no one knew we were coming, and they were like, "We don't have anybody that can talk to you." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
I'll stand over here and take pictures.
Right. I was like, well, I guess I'll go to the party tonight and sing some karaoke or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this year is a little different because A, I'm by myself. B, I am I did 2 panel presentations this year, so I spent a lot of my bandwidth there. Yeah. But honestly, other than just like a few meetings that I have scheduled, I am mostly focused on 2 things. One is networking, and kind of getting a first glimpse at some of the things that we're going to see at later cons this year, which is great for kind of getting an idea of what kind of coverage that we're going to be doing a little later on, sort of like a tease. Yeah. And then the other thing, I've decided my actual coverage that I'm going to get out of it this year, I'm going to focus on writing a piece about GAMA itself, the organization. Oh, wow. Okay. And the GAMA Expo, and of course maybe a little bit about Origins, which is also thrown by GAMA every year. So to that end, I've lined up a few interviews with a handful of GAMA board members, a handful of just regular GAMA members that I know have opinions.
There's no shortage of those in this building.
No shortage. And then I also kind of led into it about a week ago. I had a virtual interview with John Stacy and Nicole Brady, kind of in advance, and it kind of gave them a heads up of what I was planning on doing. So.
No, that's cool. For the folks listening that haven't heard us talk about them elsewhere, John Stacy is the executive director, I think is his official title, right? I
believe so, yes.
And then Nicole Brady is the president of GAMA. So
president of the GAMA board.
President of the GAMA board, thank you.
And one thing to note, she is also the media board member.
Yes.
So she's one of us.
Yeah. So the folks that are on the board and the members of the board are people that work in the industry. Their full-time job is not to do GAMA stuff. They are, in Nicole's case, she runs a website that does game reviews and articles and such.
Stay-at-home moms. Yep. Sam reviews. I believe Sam reviews.
Something like that. It's the stay-at-home mom reviews something. We'll have the link with the podcast article because I'll have time to look it up. But John Stacy is one of the full-timers that actually runs GAMA day to day, and that's the GAMA staff. And those are the folks that you're going to hear the Dragoons talk about because they're the people we interact with for Origins as much as anything else, like with the events that we do there.
That's right.
So John Stacy, and then Paul McGraw is the other main name you'll hear from us because Paul's the event manager that we deal with for all the wargame events that we do. He's the guy that handles all the scheduling. He gives us our concrete and everything for being out there. So folks listening to this that have heard us talk about GAMA staff in the past, those are probably the 2 names you've heard the most. But the board that actually makes a lot of the decisions for GAMA, those are all people in the industry.
Indeed.
And Mike will be running when? What year are you running for? He didn't know I was going to ask him that. I'm just picking on him.
I'm not going to lie. I'm definitely thinking about it. I actually, after the first year that I went to GAMA Expo and purchased a GAMA membership, I did run, largely because I was like, well, I see the potential here. It ain't there yet. And instead of just complaining about it, I was like, well, I'll do something. I want to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I did not win because nobody knew who I was yet, which was perfectly fine in retrospect. But I did take that moment to write a very, I don't want to say stern or angry letter. Pointed, yes, pointed letter to John Stacy and say, look, this is what I think you're doing wrong, but I want to help.
Yeah,
I want to help make it better because I see what's going on, I see what you're trying to do, and I want to be a part of it. And after Nicole, who was the media board member at the time then still, got all pissed off and read that letter until she got to the end of it. She reached out to me and I was like, look, I wasn't trying to stir any trouble up, but I do think this could be better. And she was like, you know what, you're right. And if you're willing to help, we'll patch you in. And that has been, I now consider Nicole to be a good friend. I love her husband's games.
Yeah.
Scott Brady, maker of Boop and
Boop.
Who's and Cues,
Yep.
and Caution Signs, co-designer of Caution Signs. But yeah, I've actually gone from like the surly malcontent to I was actually joking yesterday that because I was kind of showing some of the new media people that are showed up this year the ropes that I'm doing my best GAMA ambassador impression. So.
Yeah, they've co-opted you.
Yes, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid now.
To me, the best part of that story is that somebody besides me is pissed off Nicole, so that's great. Right? It's not,
I'll be honest, I probably piss her off on a regular basis.
I'm on a list that's not just me, so that's cool. When you're taking a look at, like, at some point, we're going to be trolling the exhibit hall. And, like,
Right.
we could be down there right now, but this was the time we had to record. So.
Probably right after we record this.
Probably right after this. I'm headed down there in a minute. But,
Hell yeah.
As you're walking around, obviously, like, we're gamers. We're all fans. And we're all going to look at stuff and go, whoa, that's cool. And, like, we want to go play with the toys and everything.
Right.
But as you're walking around, the combination of, hey, that's cool, I want to go play with the toys, versus, hey, I need to make sure we're also looking for specific things to cover for the site or that our audience might be interested in. At a certain point, you are your audience. And so if it's a cool toy you want to play with, you probably want to also share that with the audience. But where do those things diverge a little bit?
Oh, gosh.
Hey, this is cool, I want to play with it, versus I might not want to play with that, but I got to make sure I cover it for the audience.
Right. So, I mean, this is honestly a problem with just about any convention, right?
Well, yeah.
We and at Gaming Trend, we cover such a wide breadth of game types. Like, you know, we do hobby, we do party games, we do crunchy, big, gnarly Euros,
Yeah.
like you name it. I feel like I'm kind of lucky, and I know you have a crew as well, that we have a large team that have a variety of interests. So if there's literally only like one or two segments that I'm like, you know, I don't think we have the bandwidth for that. Like children's games are
Yeah, we're skipping those.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally we'll do one when one of my editors is like, hey, I want to play that with my kids, and I'm like, go for it.
You got it.
And then the other thing is party games, which I think there's definitely an appetite for that. I just don't have anyone on staff just yet to cover that, and I'm actively looking for someone whose primary interest and primary beat would be that. So I'm open to everything, like even like gear, peripherals, like all kinds of stuff. Like I don't think I'd be interested in any like casino stuff, right? Like card counters. We do some Magic the Gathering stuff, but not like some of the really deep, like
the Crokinole boards you might zip by.
I mean,
maybe.
I love Crokinole.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's only. I mean, it's Crokinole. That's like an example. It's like chess, right?
Yeah, there's only
it
so much
hasn't
you can
really
do with it.
changed in decades.
Yeah.
If not centuries in some cases, but yeah, like there's not a whole lot to cover there. But generally, I get a lot of surprises here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of new announcements. They're talking. A lot of the people here, the vendors here, are primarily speaking to retailers.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're trying to convince retailers to stock their product and give them hints at what's coming in the pipeline. And so it's a great example of us like discovering things that we didn't know about before because this is the first time they're talking about it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of leave it pretty open ended and just like let things be discoverable.
Yeah.
And that's honestly what I really like about this convention.
Yeah, as you were talking about some of the different categories of things out there on the floor, the one thing that jumped to mind for me that I personally find interesting, but would absolutely put the audience to sleep, a lot of the manufacturers, the people that actually own the printing presses and the factories and the little sample boxes and the examples of the kinds of things they can do. Like I spent some years in the printing and publishing business, like on the actual production side of those things. Not dealing with all the wood bits, but a lot of the paper and packaging and cardboard and that kind of stuff. To me, I find those really interesting, and I'm always interested to see what kinds of things they have, and then also how those companies would brand themselves and share what they can do with the publishers and manufacture, not as publishers, probably just mainly the publishers, some of the creators. Hey, here are the things we can do to make your game a reality. Those are kind of cool. Like you'll never see those dudes at Origins or at Gen Con or whatever, and that's the wrong audience for them. That's stuff I personally find kind of cool, but I don't know that the audience would give a rip.
Right. No. As a matter of fact, we've had some manufacturers, like especially like overseas manufacturers, where their English is limited, and we end up on a list of attendees, and they just kind of blank. They're not really noticing the fact that we're media.
Yeah.
And like I have to politely respond. It was like, well, I see what you're pitching here, but we're media. We're not really. Did
that happen because you were on an exhibitor badge, or did that happen even when you were on? Because we haven't seen that being on media badges at all. But I know you've had an exhibitor badge in the past.
Yeah, and actually, technically, I have an exhibitor badge this year.
This year too.
But actually, I have had that happen in the past where I just had a media badge.
Even as a media guy. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting.
I feel like they've probably gotten a little better about siloing that a bit, but I'm not 100% sure because this is the second time we've had an exhibitor badge here. And this time I'm not actually exhibiting, but because the schedule wasn't working out for us, and I said no, we can't do a booth. And so we kind of
ended up with the exhibitor badge.
resold the. I should probably talk about this. We helped someone out, and
who needed some space
and recouped our money.
Yes, fair enough.
Yes.
You provided a service for a fee.
Exactly. Where I didn't like upcharge or anything.
Nah, it's Anyway. I'm not telling anybody.
No.
And Gamma folks don't listen to our podcast. Don't worry about it.
Perfect. Oh, then we got no problems.
Yeah. Thinking over some of your past expos, and we'll kind of wrap on this. Is there any particular one of those discoveries or some kind of neat thing that you like turned a corner and went, oh wow, that's cool, that you can recall as sticking out as particularly memorable? Is there, what's one thing out there that you went, wow, I never knew about that. That's neat.
Yeah, so actually this came up this morning.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. So I was at the committee meetup this morning.
Okay.
And a gentleman came up to me. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he told me this fascinating story. He was like, I'm really interested in ethics because I've had bad situations. He's a gentleman who he described that he's done a lot of things. He's worked in film, he's worked in television, he's a writer. Now he's a game designer and game publisher, and he's here in that respect. But he was telling me about this fascinating story about how he worked with Peter Beagle, the author of A Last Unicorn. And like just this insane tale of like legal conflict and how he was like trying to help him get back on his feet because he was, having issues. And like he helped him do all these things and like helped write some things, some later works. And then some bad actors kind of got into the mix, and it turned into this like crazy legal fiasco. And I was just like, I want to talk to you about all of these things, like in isolation, because I'm like, it was just one thing after another, and I just sat there rapt, listening to this guy talk. And I mean, I'm a big fan of Last Unicorn, and it's a great book and a great movie that was made, and my wife loves it. But it was one of those. I don't know if I want to listen to this because it's one of those don't meet your heroes.
Don't meet your heroes kind of thing. Yeah.
But But I'm like, we've expanded our coverage on gaming, trying to include stuff like fan films and like books and that sort of thing that are adjacent to gaming. And I was like, I can see about 3 or 4 stories here that like I never would in a million years would have expected to have found here.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Definitely going to be diving into that when I get back.
I will say, if Jason Matthews is one of your heroes, go meet him. He's a perfectly lovely dude.
Oh, Jason is actually the guy who helped us start our committee, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. Jason Matthews is a fantastic individual. Love that guy.
If he's one of your heroes, it's okay to meet him. He's a perfectly lovely guy.
It's true.
And I will say, Steve Jackson, perfectly lovely guy. I can say that now. After yesterday, I can do that. So.
He's a sweetheart. I met him a number of times. It's really cool. I really, really, really enjoy this convention for no other reason that it's small, it's intimate, and I get to talk more at length with a lot of the folks and other parts of the industry without them having to pitch me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
We can just hang out and at every night play some games.
Yep.
And talk about like stuff like this, like more kind of high level discussions about the industry and about things that are happening in the industry and about like our place in the organization and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of it doesn't lead to like specific articles or anything, but there's so much value to that, and it carries over into our interactions with these folks at some of these other conventions, and I have no plans to ever miss this convention again.
Ultimately, it makes what you do better, even if it's indirectly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think there's real value in that.
And it's like early in the year, so like it sets the tone.
Yeah.
It sets the tone for the rest of the year, and like I know who to cover. I know what to look out for. And there's still surprises later in the year. Like there's a lot of announcements at Gen Con, for instance. Yeah. But it's really great kind of getting a look forward, and that's what this. And talking with some of these folks, and that's what the real value of this convention is.
And we're all kindred nerds at heart, so
absolutely,
you're talking to your own tribe when you're here.
Absolutely.
So that always helps. Well, thank you very much for the time for the podcast hit here. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
We gotta round up a couple more folks to fill out the rest of the hour and a half we're gonna put together for this podcast. But
and hit up gamingtrend.com. We just relaunched our site.
It does look really cool. It is very snazzy looking, absolutely. And so, and again, you guys cover a lot of stuff we don't. So that's, it's not like you're, cheating on the Dragoons by going and, hanging out with Mike's site or anything. But
we're all buddies.
Yeah, we're all covering the same industry and just taking different angles on it. But yeah, this year, like last year, it was all game designer kind of folks that we were talking with. Mm-hmm. This year, we're sort of spreading those wings a little bit, and nice. I'm glad you were able to join us for the podcast. So thank you.
Happy to be on board.
Cool. And we're gonna go troll the exhibit hall and go find cool stuff to take pictures of.
Our 14th season of Mentioned in Dispatches is made possible by all of our Patreon supporters, but especially our regimental patrons who supported us at the top level. Regiment of Strategy Gaming would like to thank Stagger Wing, Paul LaFontaine, Matthew Rowe, Joseph Knoll, Fred and our favourite podcast dog, Kevin Bertram, Catastrophe Games, Patrick Garrity, Michael Sunborg, Chet Bell and Andy J. Wargaming is our jam, and they help us spread it. You too can join the Armchair Dragoons as a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/armchairdragoons.
Back at GAMA Expo, well, I mean, we never really left GAMA Expo, but the next segment of our GAMA Expo podcast here, we went and rounded up Katie and Kristen from Buckeye Game Fest. Woo, yay! So this obviously, like, we run the Wargame headquarters at Origins. We have our own little convention that we're doing down in North Carolina, but Buckeye Game Fest has been one of the ones that we've consistently shown up at, and by we, it's mostly me, but I drag a couple of people along with me, and BB Mike is going to be there this year. He better be. He signed up to do part of Quad Fest. We've already talked Quad Fest on earlier episode, where Gary and Bill and Mike and all, we're going to show up and we're going to run a bunch of the old classic SPI quads in the War Room. But you guys care about more than just the War Room, because you guys got like a whole convention to deal with.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. One of the pictures that I always make sure I get at BGF is I always go into the library room because you need a panoramic photo to get the whole library in the picture.
So true.
So it's the Cabs library, right? I mean, it's
Correct.
you
It
guys
is
are
the Cavs
legally two
library.
different things, but it's the Cabs library.
It is the Cavs library, yes.
And so you can play it at BGF for a fraction of the cost of Origins.
Absolutely, and we do bring the entire library. The only two places you can play it, unless you're a Cavs member, are at BGF or at Origins.
Yeah. So BGF has been around a while, took a hit for COVID, like everybody else. When you came back after COVID, you changed the schedule a little bit. Didn't you guys shift from fall to spring?
That's correct. We were originally most likely a fall con between September, October dates for all the years it ran. After COVID, we shifted to spring. The intent was we were hoping to kick off what we call the con season. We just wanted to be the start before Origins and Gen Con so you can come to us and then keep going. It's kind of what our idea was at the time.
How much of it was trying to avoid Ohio State football games?
Also that, okay, that's a factor. That is definitely a factor because as we all know in this Columbus, Ohio, Buckeyes are definitely very popular, and when the football season's around, it's hard to get parking, it's hard to do hotels, and then you have a competing factor, football, board games, and we actually have a lot of people that enjoy both, so yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I can recall some Cabs game days being a little more sparsely attended because of football games.
Yes, they even tried to get the football games streamed, encouraging people to come to Cabs so they didn't have to miss.
I don't remember that, but I
was-
wouldn't have paid much attention to it because I just don't care about Ohio State football. So, yeah, that wouldn't have done as much for me. So I've been dealing with Kristen not just with BGF, but also with Rogue Judges because we are always kind of in the same area at Origins, and we do very similar things. We've got similar relationships with Gamma. How'd you get involved in all this?
That is a good question.
Did you lose a bet?
Actually, how I got involved was, I really enjoy playing board games, and I like organizing things. So at one point, Kristen came to me and was like, I enjoy doing the volunteer stuff. I need someone to help me get organized. And it's like, I'm good at organizing things. I like organizing things. So I started there, and then it expanded because another thing I like to organize besides people is board games. So that's how I became the librarian at Cabs. So I helped our fantastic outgoing librarian, Regina. She had been doing it for 7 years, which is a long time. I helped her for an entire year until she stepped down. She said, I got to step down while there's someone to replace me because you do it a while and that library becomes your baby and you don't want to just leave it to anybody. So
Did you guys ever replace the QCAT for the barcode scanner? Is the QCAT still around?
No, we don't have that anymore. But the computer there does still tell you to rub the cat's paw, the cat's nose.
For the people that don't know what we're talking about, long ago, so this would have been 98-ish maybe, a bunch of computer magazines shipped out with this little peripheral called a QCAT. And it was a cat-shaped barcode scanner. Had the little, was it his mouth or his eyes or something. Had the little red light in it that you used as a barcode scanner. And so the idea was everybody now has a barcode scanner in their house that you can hook into the QCAT software and scan barcodes at home to like get information about stuff, whatever. And the only place in my entire life that I ever saw a QCAT scanner in use was the Cabs library.
Now I wish we had one still. But
That's kind of neat.
We do not. It's just a regular,
Yeah.
like you see everywhere.
It was adorable, but yeah, it was the only place I ever saw one. I saw tons of them in trash cans throughout the years.
Let's go!
So BGF has the open board gaming room, big old conference room there. We've got the war room, which, like, face it, that's where we're camped out most of the time. We got the library room. You guys have had a room dedicated to RPGs over the years. That's kind of waxed and waned, I think, just depending on who you had as a GM, right?
Yeah, well, we tempted, it was mostly LARPs actually. So
Okay.
we used to have Elder Entertainment would come in and run a few LARPs that was dedicated to them. Then because they just stopped going to cons, we pivoted to RPGs. COVID happened.
Yeah.
So we kind of reset. So we are refocusing that. We do have RPGs. We brought them back last year.
Yep.
And they're growing this year. So they were pretty well attended. So RPGs are definitely now as one other element to Buckeye
Another
Game
thing.
Fest. Yeah,
Yep.
because Buckeye Game Fest has been known for many, many years as the place you go for the war room or the place you go for open gaming. People like to equate to, if you've gone to the Origins board game library, come to Buckeye Game Fest. You could do that for 4 days straight for a fraction of the cost. Open gaming, tons of options. We don't close our space down, so you're there 24/7 if you want. The library does close because obviously our volunteers need to sleep.
Yeah.
And Katie,
I didn't realize the board game thing was open 24.
Yeah,
I'm not open 24/7, so I'm never there at 3 a.m. to see
That's appealing
it.
for more of our younger crowd because let's face it, a lot of people like to stay up till, like, you're in the middle of a game at 11, you don't want to stop, you want to finish that,
Yes.
So as the years have gone on, we've added events. Events were first introduced to Buckeye Game Fest in 2013. It was the first time we even tried events because it was all just open gaming. So now coming to like today's world, there's so many different types of events. We have the RPGs as we discussed. We also have just regular people submitting tabletop game events, teaching, learn events.
Yep.
You guys actually have right now currently 14 war room events scheduled.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Okay, only 7 of them are our fault.
Right, that's great.
So.
But we have, and we're actually introducing miniatures this year. It's a new thing for us, so it's slow and growing. We're hoping it'll pick up. So there's miniatures now.
I thought you guys used to have a minis room like across the hall
There
somewhere.
we always tried something, and we always have, like, pretty much our show is dependent on GMs.
Whoever
GMs
shows
come
up
in
for
and
stuff,
bring us stuff, and we often, we're like, whatever you want to run, we're happy to let you run it. We're trying to curate an experience for our attendees now that is more about what do I do, because as Katie and I were talking about this show here at GAMA Expo, a lot of things have been helpful here. One of the things I want to ensure is that if you're a new gamer, you want to experience a con. It's overwhelming. As you've said, that library, 1,800 unique titles, you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
Yeah.
And you walk into a main gaming hall and tons of people are gaming, you're like, where do I go? Who do I game with? These events will help them get into something and establish connections and start networking, because we want to be that con that you are approachable, friendly, and gaming. That is our goal. So we have some special events too. I think we're doing a new, Katie can help me keep honest here, but we're introducing a new panel system. It was something we absorbed for a con that was going away named Marcon.
Yep.
Wait,
so Marcon's going away?
Marcon.
Oh, man.
Sadly, unfortunately.
I mean, I never went, but I know a ton of people that loved it.
And,
So
and for those on the thing, Marcon is a multiple
alternative realities convention.
Thank you.
Yes.
So and I'm going to dumb it down for someone who hasn't gone to those conventions. To me, a panel is, I'm going to sit and listen to people talk about something that's interesting, sci-fi, pop culture, etc. And so we have a great event programmer, coordinator, I apologize, who is curating that experience, working with panelists that worked at Marcon. So we're trying that out to see how that feels at our cons. That's something new this year.
That's cool.
You like panels? We're going to have some panels, and we're also going to have a consignment store. We brought that back. There was not contention, I apologize. There's a lot of things about bringing it back in, and a lot of people wanted it. They missed it. We're going to do that again this year. People can come in for a 3-hour blitz of buying games at discounted prices, and we run that as well.
Because you can't do an auction because you're in Ohio, and
Unless you
Ohio
have a
auction
legal
laws are
auction-
stupid.
Yeah, basically you have to have a legal auctioneer to do
Oh,
it.
yeah. No, I'm well aware. It's dumb, but
And I think the only
get it.
other special event, two other things. Artemis Space Bridge.
I was about. If you hadn't mentioned it, I was going to.
I'm
I was
sorry.
too.
Gaming Nomads comes in every year. They are gracious because they don't actually work a lot of small cons. They actually only go to bigger conventions like Gen Con and Origins and others and Lexicon, and they come to us because they just are a great partner. So if you love Artemis Bridge Simulator, you could play it for free because our events are free. We have exceptions. We have charity events that raise money, but all our events are included in your badge price. So if you're like, ooh, I want to try a tournament. Ooh, I want to play Artemis first. I want to learn wargaming, even if I've never done wargaming. Big games. We're trying to expand and offer as much as we can within a reasonable space. Yeah.
No, Artemis, definitely, because it's like $15 a trip at Origins
and 40 at Gen Con.
Yeah, and it's free. I mean, there were some years, me, Gary, Lee, whoever, just from the war room, took a break, went over there, played, went back to war room, played another turn, went back to Artemis because there was no line. So we're like, let's do it
Who doesn't
again.
want to be their own commander of their space bridge?
For folks that don't know, this is Star Trek with the serial numbers filed off. You are the Star Trek bridge, and the science officer and the comms dude and the captain and the helm and the weapons, and like you're all yelling at each other about the kind of information you need to make stuff happen. It's a ton of fun. It moves in near real time. And look, you're flying a spaceship around blowing shit up. Like, who wouldn't enjoy that? For you know?
Right?
I know, and it's free.
I never done it, and years ago, like 2018 was the first time. I was like, you know what? I have some free time. We got together with all our friends. We had 2 open spots, so some random person walked in, was like, "Can I do it?" Like, come on in. We just we didn't have enough, and it was the best experience. And as soon as we were done, I was like, "Can we do it again? I want to play a different role."
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and it was free.
So it almost sounds like, I mean, this is somebody threw Origins in the dryer and it came out shrunk and there's BGF.
I mean,
A little bit. And another thing we're trying to work on, especially with concern to our, with respect to our events, is experiences that you can't get outside of a convention environment. So we're trying to get more large-scale games in, because who doesn't like playing with large, giant pieces?
Yeah.
We're working on putting together more tournaments. We have a local couple who, for instance, love Spirit Island, and so the husband built an entirely custom, 3-dimensional, large-scale, tabletop large-scale Spirit Island set, custom pieces for every spirit,
Wow.
everything customized.
That's crazy.
And they always bring it to our show.
That's cool.
And run events for us on it.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing experience. And we just want more people to be able to have those experiences.
Yeah, the giant floor-size diplomacy game
Yes.
where everybody puts on the
Giant
funny
floor
hats.
sign- Yes.
Yeah, we will have both of those at this year's convention. And I can even see, we may, a little sneak peek, we may be tapping into a giant Suro. I might have a resource for that. That is actually something that people do experience at Origins every year, so
Yeah.
we'll see about
That'll
that.
be cool.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be cool.
Yeah.
And it is, so for folks that we've talked about it some before when we've had Ardwolf on the show, that it's in the convention center, the same convention center where Origins is held. It's just not out on the big exhibit hall floor. It's over in the conference rooms near the food court. For those of you that have been there, it's the conference rooms near the food court where a lot of the RPG events happen during
it's in the
Origins.
Yes, correct. The Hyatt Regency in downtown Columbus. So Origins holds their RPG room. In fact, for any RPG players, Lurking Fears, they have all their RPGs in the Haze room. That's our main gaming room.
That's your main gaming room, yeah. I can't ever. I know they're all named after the presidents. I don't know which room is which.
All the dead presidents.
There's the game room, there's the war room, there's the library room.
The great thing is we typically manage the whole first floor. So every one of those rooms has something going on, except our show office. Can't go in there. But everything else has something going on.
I want to go in there.
Yeah, and we do have a small vendor hall too. We're not really a con that people go to do a ton of shopping. You're not getting the hottest newest games, but we have a lot of smaller vendors who are starting out. We like to be that con that they start and grow from, and they come in and they sell their products. We had a great eclectic group last year, and we're looking forward this year. We already have 11 vendors. And we have a couple spaces for like 2 or 3 more.
Yeah, part of the problem with the vendor hall at a smaller convention, like you guys are at MythicCon or any of those other smaller cons, is after you've been to the Origins and Gen Cons of the world, or like what we've got here on the floor at GAMA Expo, it's like 12 people doing arts and crafts in like one game store. And one person who's there trying to sell their game because they are the publisher and designer. They're a one-man shop, or one-woman shop, one-person shop, whatever. They're like, I'm glad you're chasing your dream. I have no interest in your game because I've never heard of it. I'm sorry. Then get out from behind the desk and go teach people how to play the game.
And so to that point, that's kind of why we curated a different experience for our vendor hall. And obviously in the past we thought vendor hall has to be its own thing. So it was its own thing. And then starting last year, we actually pulled gaming tables into the vendor hall. So the vendors almost outline the tables.
That's cool.
So at least the vendors are engaging with other people, and people in their gaming might look over and go, Seabound, what's that? And they can go and demo. But you're correct. It is a tough experience, but each vendor is understanding of what they're getting into. We have conversations, we set real expectations, but you got to start somewhere. And a lot of vendors start out with us, other small cons, not just us, and grow from there. We had Dirty Woods, we had Capstone Games as vendors back in the day. And then now you see how big they're getting, right? It's great. It's good to see, and it's great to build those relationships.
And when one of our vendors is a publisher of a single game, or maybe just a handful of titles, we do encourage them to also schedule events.
Demos,
because if someone knows how to play your game, they're much more likely to buy it.
Yep.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Down where I'm based down in North Carolina, Triangle Sim Society, they're minis wargamers. They do 2 conventions a year, one spring, one in the fall, and they basically take over one hotel banquet room. They use a hotel out near the airport, and so they've got like 10 or 12 minis tables set up in the middle of that, and then they've got the vendors around the walls in the same room. Now they've only got a half a dozen people there. 2 or 3 of them look like some dude just doing a garage sale from his straight bookshelf. But there's some dudes that bring in like convention style rigs like you see on the floor here or at Origins with lots of terrain stuff or 1 or 2 custom minis. So I think the Perry Minis guys are always there. So there's a couple of folks that bring in some really cool stuff. And then there's Ken Ellis, looks like he went to a rummage sale and just brought whatever he picked up there to, you know. So.
You know, when we first started, I'll tell about the venue space too. Like what a lot of vendors and other people might forget, publishers and everything, when smaller cons are in hotels, we are limited to the space that we can afford / that's available. And, you know, when we were at another location, we had like this humongous ballroom because that's all they had there.
Yep.
So we were able to curate that. We were able to have a vendor be in the main gaming hall like the whole time, and it was great because that worked. People can play and casually walk over, but when you're in a space where you have
separate rooms, you
got to do your best. And so every year we're learning and growing, and you know, it's like I said, it's about bringing an experience. We set expectation with our vendors. All our vendors are really great. They work with us. Some come back. We have several that have repeatedly come back. And we try our best to make sure there's not a competition. We don't want 4 dice vendors there, right? We try our best. You know, we try to have one board game company, and we really like that it's a local board game company. Like Beyond the Board is a local gaming store in Columbus, Ohio. They are currently our #1 dedicated
it's a retail store.
Yeah, retail store, and that's great because how many, you know, it's giving business back into the community, right? We really like to.
But they're the retail equivalent of the library. I mean, they're selling
the
just
games,
everybody else's games.
Right. You know, retailers are kind of afraid to be a vendor at a show, like a small show, especially because they can't afford to send people during their show. They're supposed to be working at the store. But when you have that flexibility, it's a great partnership because then you can bring curated experiences to the event. Like, hey, I would love this new game, and I have a copy of the store. I bring it to you tomorrow, and that's what they do. So
I know. 20 years ago or so, when Bayonet Games was still a thing, and I was a vendor, like air quotes around vendor, at BGF 7 or 8 or whatever. It was the one at the hotel up on 161, way on the north side of town. And it's not way on the north side of town anymore because the town keeps growing. But it was there were only like 3 or 4 of us that had any kind of vendor table. But it was the one giant room that you could see the whole room, and I just put a sign on my table that said, "I'm the guy in the hockey jersey. Come get me if you need me." And then I played games for the whole weekend. I sold all kinds of stuff, but like I was.
Which is why with the move of bringing some gaming tables in, it allows our vendors to get away from behind their table, close enough to have a fun. You know, like we want everyone at our show to have the best experience possible. Obviously, every show has hiccups, ups and downs. People may not have the best time, and we love to hear feedback so we can improve because we want to bring the best experience to you. We work countless hours to bring you the best experience.
Are you guys willing to give away attendance numbers here?
Sure. Yeah, I'll be. I mean, that's what we're.
So where were you? 29 pre-COVID, the last one pre-COVID. Where were you?
Our attendance numbers in pre-COVID, 2019, the last time we ran, was 522 people.
Okay, so it was over 500.
Yes, it was over 500, and for just a little thing, the 2017 when we moved to the Hyatt downtown, 18 and 19, we grew about 60 people and 100 people. Right? We grew. We were growing consistently a good amount of numbers.
Yay, COVID. Thank you.
Yay, COVID. Everyone suffered from that.
Yes.
Even big shows,
I know. Well aware of it. All right. And so last year, where were you?
We were close to 400. Yeah, we were about like 390, very close to 400.
So we're close to all the way back.
Yes, and it's just been a little bit. COVID has changed the market. It changed the market for cons in general, and also, as Katie likes to remind me, Columbus is just so full of so many gaming opportunities that when you look at a small con like ourselves compared to like Origins, of course, you could say, well, I could go to this game store. There's just a lot of options. So we try our best to say, hey, here's why you should come to us. So that's why we're trying to bring these experiences you can't get at a retail store or at a bar or a bar game cafe. Yeah.
So obviously, like the plans for this year are largely in motion, right? We got a bunch of stuff showing up in the war room. Giant diplomacy. We got Artemis coming back. As you're looking forward the next year or 2 or 3 or 4, Katie, what are we bringing in?
We do. Well, it's a.
What are we trying to bring in?
We have
a brainchild.
Really exciting plan that it's very early stages. It was actually just formed here at GAMA Expo.
Ruh-roh.
Yes.
For a full experience for 2026. Can't really say too much about it because
It's
So you
still
should
in the
but
works.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
definitely in the works that it feels like positive motion.
yeah,
Okay.
It's not like
it's-
an idea that is like on paper, maybe it'll work. We've already gotten several solid leads that this can actually execute. And until
Okay.
we have more firm details,
Yeah,
we can't share too much, but it's very exciting. And one thing I can share is it allows a community of conventions to work together, right? You know,
Okay.
there's often a big idea that maybe conventions compete, like, you know, oh, you're on the same weekend, but this is allowing a group of conventions to partner together and do this great experience.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ruh-roh.
No, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And we were really excited about it. And that's one of the things I think GAMA Expo really brought to light for us event people here today. Like, it was probably the best
That's cool.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the war gamers interested in BGF, we've got the War Room. Opens on Monday, so we got a whole week worth of monster game stuff. And as Katie and Chris have been running around telling everybody all week long, we're one of only like 4 conventions in the country where you can do an entire week of monster gaming.
Yeah, come on.
Which is true, but like, you know, there's other ways to lead into that. But anyway, it's so we do have the War Room, but it's not just a war game convention. So if you're a war gamer, you're not going to run out of things to do. But if you're a war gamer who's bringing along non-war game friends or family, there's plenty for them to do also.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
We actually have a lot of people that do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if you want to bring along your friends and family who are not board gamers and may only want to play board games once or twice, being in downtown Columbus, ready access to public transportation,
I've
there
been
are
there, yeah.
a lot of fun things to do.
Yeah,
in
but it's a
Columbus.
pain to get to the zoo from downtown.
I will. I'll give you that. The
It's a
zoo,
pain to get to the zoo from
but
downtown.
it's really easy to get to Kosai,
Yes.
just across the river.
One of my all-time favorite museum exhibits is in Kosai upstairs.
Yeah.
It's the intersection of hope and opportunity or whatever. It's the main
progress.
street in
Yeah, it's
1890
so
and then the
cool.
same main street in
Yes.
like
It
1958 or
is
whatever.
really cool. I mean, and not only that, one of the great things that we have for BGF, which anyone who has been to Origins is aware of, like there is the food court right there in the hotel. So if you want to eat, it's not that far away. But if you
It's
just
convenient.
it's convenient.
It's convenient. Let's not hype the food that's in there. It's
But
convenient.
I'm gonna hype the good food. It's just a few minutes walk through the convention center to get to North Market.
To get to North Market. North Market's
And-
fine. It's still a construction zone right now, but North Market is
It
cool.
yeah.
It is.
But if you were going to hype the convention center food court, we're going to stop the interview
no,
right
no,
now
no.
because there's the Indian place and a whole lot of crap.
It's if you want
fast
if you
and you
don't-
want
if
now,
you want fast, it's fast and right there.
yes.
But if you want options,
But fast and right there, unfortunately, includes that Subway, and that is just not something I want to inflict on anyone.
And then also there is one of our sponsors is Barley's Brewing.
Barley's
A
is
lot
awesome.
of people absolutely love there. That's like a staple for Origins.
It is.
And we are building our partnership with Barley's. One cool event that we're doing. So if you go to Buckeye Game Fest on Thursday night from 6 to 9, we have a Barley's event. We are going to be doing an experience where you can go over to Barley's and just have some food and drink on your own dime there. That's on your own dime. But we'll have some games and we'll do a little giveaway and just
That's cool.
it's just giving you an experience outside of the con because, you know, sometimes you just need a little break. And Origins has all these other opportunities. So Barley's has been a great partner and we're hoping to build upon that. And
We have
one
a
day-
collection of Barley's Origins pint glasses at my
one
place.
day, it's our hope that we can create a BGF experience like that. But
That
you know,
would
we're
be-
too soon. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
And then, like, I would like to add on too. I didn't get to mention this is that we do something at our show, which is the charity raffle.
Yep.
So one of the things we like to do is work with our community. You know, double exposure envoy helps us with our play to win. But we get a lot of donations, and all these donations are going to this annual charity raffle where you could buy tickets. And at the end of the show, not at the end of the show, on Saturday we do this live raffle. We have some great prizes with like Ravenwood Castle gives us a weekend stay every year.
Oh, that's cool.
Origins gives us a pair of badges to their show every year, maybe 2 or 3. Sometimes it just depends.
Yeah.
We have some exciting things every year, and 50% of the proceeds goes to our charity partner, which is the Spiel Foundation, which a lot of people know about them from Gen Con because they do the Spielathon.
Yep.
It's a great partner, you know, giving back to the community, and so, you know, I wanted to put that out there too because that's also something fun. We have one guy who comes to our show just to do the raffle, and it's great because he's giving to charity.
And it's right there in the lobby where the registration happens.
Yes,
You just
yes.
do a
Yep.
180 and there's this
There it is.
wall
and
of
you check
stuff
every day,
to.
because vendors sometimes, I try to get it proactively, but vendors sometimes, once they start seeing it build up, they just start bringing stuff over. So
That's cool.
it's always worth coming back and checking it out, because we always add things at last minute.
Yeah, the for the smaller local cons, Mythicon's charity raffle, I think, is the biggest one I've ever seen. It's not picking on you guys. It ends up being about 4 times the size of what y'all had, and I think that's just because Jeff the same dude had been doing it for 20-something years, and so the relationships he built up over huge amounts of time really paid off for that. That he would have some ginormous bundles and then a ton of smaller stuff, but like you had to walk around it in a hallway. Like you guys have a large lobby area to work with. He put it in a hall, but it was like single file traffic past where it was, because it would just sprawl and take up so much space. And you're like, Jeff, you got to put it somewhere else. He's like, yeah, but if I put it here, everybody sees it.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, yeah, because everybody's pissed off. They got to walk around it.
as much work as the raffle is to execute, I would love for it to be that kind
That
of
big,
experience,
yeah.
because it is, I'm talking with some publishers. A lot of publishers are very weird about donating for raffle purposes. Every publisher has a unique experience. Like I'll use Stonemaier, they're very clear. They don't do library donations raffle, but they will do play to win. That's how they like to market. We have Rio Grande as an they're a great sponsor. They don't like raffles, they don't like play to win, but they like to just give an attendee. By the way, come to Buckeye Game Fest this year. Thanks to Rio Grande, every attendee is going to get a random game from Rio Grande for free, just for being
Just for showing up.
So that's how, like, every publisher's unique.
Are you making us spin the wheel again this year to figure out which
big dice.
Oh, you got the giant dice?
Giant
Giant
die.
dice.
giant dice.
I'm still trying to talk Scott into building me a giant dice
tower
out of. Well, I told him he could just do cardboard boxes.
It'd be fun,
But
MDF. I mean, it's not, if you build it out of not cardboard boxes, it's reusable. You could.
But then you have to store it.
Folds flat. It's rectangular. You should be able to fold that thing flat. Come on.
We're board gamers.
You can't-
We don't have any storage.
You can't
left.
find an engineer somewhere. So, all right. Dates for Buckeye Game Fest this year.
Yes.
War Room opens on
April 28th.
28th.
April 20th.
And then the rest of the convention opens on the 1st?
May 1st.
May 1st.
And they all end May 4th.
Yep, which is that Sunday.
Sunday. Yep.
So,
So-
cool.
Yeah,
Yay.
so some information, pre-registration. You could buy your badges. They're open now until the 25th of April. We will close pre-registration, and then after that, go to on-site prices.
Yep.
So you can still get tickets. Hotel block is still open until April 7th. All that information's on our website.
I stay at Casa del Mom.
Yeah.
The rest of y'all can go book a hotel.
Yeah,
right?
hotels, booking hotels is definitely a great way to support. For all local cons out there, any small con, one of the best things people can do is book rooms
Hotel
at their
rooms.
hotels if they can afford it, and it makes sense, of course, because it does help the con the most.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. Ladies, thank you for joining us here on the podcast, helping us fill out our GAMA Expo. Last year, we just talked to a whole bunch of different publishers and creative types. This time, we sort of spread the wings a little bit.
Nice.
And got a few extra folks, so you guys were a part of that experience. And so, Mention in Dispatches listeners, like about BGF because we've been talking about it quite a bit. Now you've heard it from them and all the other stuff that's there, because like we really only care about the wargame stuff, so that's what you hear from us. But you get to hear about the rest of it from Kristen and Katie here, and so we hope to see you guys there. If not this year, because it may be a little late for some of you to make the travel plans. Start planning. Do you guys have the 2026 dates?
We do have those.
We don't make a
dates.
big deal out of it.
No,
but
we
what
do
are
have
they?
those dates.
When are we looking at?
1 second.
It's going to overlap something important, I'm sure.
Probably. They're a little bit earlier next year.
Due to hotels.
So next year we are running War Room starting on March 9th through the 15th, and the regular convention starting on the 12th through
Okay.
the 15th.
So you're basically bumping up against GAMA Expo.
Well,
We
just a week and
really
a half.
are.
Yeah.
It's
But-
unfortunate. The hotel we got blocked out of our whole entire month of April. So we have a pivot plan for future years, so that won't happen. But
Woo!
yeah, but now we have those dates. So
All right.
yeah.
We do have
Cool. So
Yes.
earlier in the year, so you got to burn spring break for next year.
It's
so.
a bit earlier, yeah.
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 So
Oh well. All right.
collective sigh.
Yes, collective sigh. All right, cool. Guys, thank y'all very much for joining us, and we'll see what else is happening here at GAMA Expo for the podcast.
Yeah,
so
Yeah, and we'll see you at Buckeye Game Fest.
see you in a couple of weeks. Absolutely. All right, folks, that wraps up this year's coverage on Mention in Dispatches from the GAMA Expo. Drop a note in the comments or pop into our forums or just reply to us on the socials, wherever you choose, and let us know what you thought of this year's quick whip around through GAMA Expo, and let us know and what you might be interested in hearing from the podcast in future expos or other conventions we go to. If there's something in particular you'd like us to try and cover or somebody you'd like us to try to talk to while we got the ability to record some podcasts while we're there. Anyhow, we know this was our usual non-traditional trip through the expo. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you next time on another episode of Mention and Dispatches.